الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. في ندوتنا لهذا اليوم إن شاء الله سنقدم أستاذ مساعد الدكتور حسين محمد محاضرة من هذا اليوم، فلتتفضل مشكورا. تفضل يا دكتور عفوا مشكورا.
تمام، شكرا جزيلا أستاذ محمد. أولا الصوت واضح؟
نعم الصوت ممتاز الحمد لله.
تمام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. محدثتكم أستاذ مساعد الدكتور اوفى حسين محمد. Today I am going to present a webinar entitled Notable Frai's Anatomy of a Criticism, Historical Criticism, Theory of Moods. Okay. Let us try to go directly to the first slide. Now, concerning the first slide, I will start with the title of the book, Why Anatomy? Yani sometimes when we are going to read the title, we are going to think that maybe Fry is going to deal with something that is scientific. In fact, this is the idea that he wants to deliver to the readers. He wants to say that things that we are going to deal with, in particular criticism, is a science. It is an art, but it is a science because it has certain methods, certain procedures, it has certain techniques, science to the full meaning of the word. So what is the approach of this science? It is argumentative, and as I say, is trying to present it. It is also analytical, in a sense that data from reliable sources. He tries to draw heavily, he draws upon examples, he tries to illustrate things by means of relying heavily upon certain examples. So he tries to balance between the argument and the evidence. He tries to balance between the theoretical framework and the practical one, which is very important when we try to talk about something that is really critical, really scientific. We cannot understand by depending upon scientific approach or upon depending upon theory only. We need practical examples in order to absorb the meaning. Concerning the structure of this book, now, in 4 brilliant essays on historical, ethical, archetypal, and rhetorical criticism, Fry applies scientific method in an effort to change the character of a criticism from the causal to the causal, from the random and intuitive to the systematic. So he does not want to talk about a criticism randomly. He does not want to or let's say he wants to explain the line of demarcation between literature and criticism. Literature is an art by itself, so at the same time criticism is also an art by itself, and in order to understand this art we have to deconstruct its structure. We have to go through each layer. We have to deal with each layer separately and sometime in related to other layers. So in this sense, and maybe this is why anatomy, because he is following alongside argumentative, alongside analytical, he is following in this book a structural and deconstructional approach. There is a structure, an established structure, and he tries to deconstruct this structure in order to understand each part, each piece in this systematic branch of knowledge. Concerning the critical reception, what other people say about Northrop's Frai's anatomy of a criticism. Here I am going to choose one particular quotation. Fry was a learned and eloquent spokesman for the view that literature constitutes an autonomous system, an order of works and words to be studied through a systematic and classificatory approach as articulated in the essays comprising the anatomy. Okay. I'm going to shift to the second slide. Just a minute. Now, the book, as I've told you, is divided into 5 essays, but these 5 essays are preceded by an introduction. Now, the main focus of this introduction is on the term criticism. What is a criticism according to Fry? There is a quotation, criticism can talk and all the arts are dumb. So here I cannot deal with literature alone. If I want to get a meaning, if I want to judge, if I want to interpret, I have to analyze, I have to deconstruct. So this is what Fry means by criticism can talk. Why it can talk? Because it is going to give more than one meaning, and in this sense he is following what is already said by the reader, that meaning has no definite closure. There is another definition. Criticism is a structure of thought and knowledge existing in its own right with some measure of independence from the art it deals with. So here, once again, he is trying to draw a line of demarcation between literature and the criticism. There is a great deal of difference between literature and the criticism. And in fact, what we are doing as researchers, as students of literature, as professors of literature, when we write a thesis, when we write a dissertation, when we write a research paper, we are engaged in the process of criticism. We are not engaged in literature. We are engaged in criticism, in fact. He dismisses parasitic view of criticism that thinks criticism simply imitates or copies the literature it engages. So when we say literature and criticism, they are not two faces for one coin. In fact, they are different from each other. Criticism is not a parasite theory simply because it does not imitate or copy the literature it engages. It deals with literature in terms of a specific conceptual framework derivable from an inductive survey of the literary fields. And here Fry warns against the criticism that he calls deterministic. In fact, here he is referring to, let us say, cultural theories, for example, or psychological theories. When we talk about feminism, when we talk about Marxism, when we talk about maybe colonial or post-colonial, here Fry wants to say, when we say criticism, it is not something that is determined by other fields of knowledge or other branches of knowledge, like Marxism, like neo-historicism, or all these cultural theories. He wants to emphasize the idea that when we deal with literary criticism, we are dealing with two important pillars, and we have to focus on, of course, these cultural theories. We have to focus on the form of the literary text. Criticism is to art what history is to action and philosophy to wisdom. That means criticism is a knowledge about something rather than the thing itself. And here, once again, he is trying to focus upon the line of demarcation between criticism and literature. And I will switch to Arabic if you allow me for a little bit. يعني هواية من الطلبة الباحثين أو حتى اللي هم خارج الاختصاص عندما نقدم مواضيع جديدة، على سبيل المثال موضوع السمنة في الأدب، موضوع التوحد في الأدب، موضوع الأكل في الأدب، موضوع الموسيقى في الأدب، يعني دائما يعتقدون أنه أين الربط؟ في الحقيقة نحن نتعامل مع آليات تجسيد العمل الأدبي، وبالتالي نحن ننقد النص، نحن ننقد النص. أحد أساليب أو أحد البروسيجرز في نقد النص هي قراءة النص already، لكن نحن لسنا معنيين بكتابة قصة أو بكتابة مسرحية أو بكتابة قصيدة، وإنما نحن معنيين بنقد النص. ولهذا أقول لجميع زملائي في الأدب الإنجليزي المختصين في الأدب الإنجليزي، نحن جميعا يجب أن نضيف إلى عنواننا الأكاديمي نقد الشعر، نقد القصة، نقد الرواية، نقد المسرح، لأن ما نقوم به فعليا هو النقد وليس الأدب، هو نقد الأدب وليس الأدب بذاته. Criticism is a science that has its own anatomy and it is not deterministic. Okay. Now, let me start with historical criticism theory of moods. As I've told you that this book is divided into 4 essays. Each essay has a title. The first essay is entitled Historical Criticism Theory of Moods, and we have the second essay, which is entitled Theory of Symbolism, and we have the third one, which is related to archetypal criticism, and also we have the fourth one, which is entitled Theory of Genre. In fact, in these 4 essays, Fry is trying to deal with the genres of literature. And he is follow what is already established by Aristotle in his Poetics, when he divides literature into tragedy, comedy, epic, dithyrambic, etc. So Fry follows Aristotle's Poetics, in which he classifies genres of literature according to the object of imitation. If we go to Aristotle, he says, what is a tragedy? It is an imitation of an action. It is an imitation. In other places, he says, it is an imitation of man in action. In another place, he says, it is an imitation of life. And what is life? Life is all about man in action. So here, according to this, Fry tries to classify literature into 2 main modes. What are they? The fictional mood and the thematic mood. Now, the main classification in this essay is he divides literature into fictional mood and thematic mode. And by the way, here, what do we mean by the fictional mode and the thematic mode? Now, the fictional mode deal with the plot and the characters who are engaged in a conflict. Now, with the thematic mode, it means that we are going to focus or to emphasize the theme or the idea. Of course, we cannot separate these 2 from each other, but in any literary work, but we are going to elaborate on them in an attempt to make our students, especially those who are in MA or in a PhD, to understand Fry, because I know very well that Fry's book is such a complicated and complex book. So I am going to explain things step by step in order to make them clear for our students. So at the very beginning, he divides literature into two main moods, the fictional one and the thematic one. Deals with the or focuses or emphasizes the importance of a plot and character, and the thematic, it emphasizes the theme. Here I draw a diagram, and I hope that this diagram is going to explain many things. Fictional. Fictional, it means plot driven. Now plot, he does not say plot directly. Instead, he tries to use other words like mythos. Now mythos means what? Means a plot. Mythos means a plot. And by the way, we have another word that is ethos. Now ethos deals with character and setting. So we have mythos. Mythos deals with the plot, and we have ethos that deals with the character and the plot. On the other side, this one, we have the thematic. It means that the whole work is the focus in the whole work is going to be on the idea. Now, what is the title used by Fry to refer to the idea? Dianoia. Dianoia. Okay. Now, in the fictional mode, the fictional mode is all about, the fictional mode is going to be divided into comedy and tragedy. The fictional mode is going to be divided into two main subcategories that are comedy. And when we talk about a tragedy and comedy, we are talking about integration of man with society. The integration of man with society, there is a kind of separation, while in comedy there is what? There is a cohesion, there is a kind of integration with society. Okay, this is in the fictional mood. Now, whether in a tragedy or comedy, in the fictional mode, we have the tree is not complete. We have other subcategories or subdivision. On the first place we have myth, then romance, then high mimetic, then low mimetic, then ironic. Yani in a tragedy we have myth, we have romance, we have tragic myth, we have a tragic romance, we have a tragic high mimetic, we have a tragic low mimetic, we have a tragic irony. And in comedy we have comic myth, comic romance, comic high mimetic, comic low mimetic, and comic irony. This is in the fictional mode that is entitled mythos. Now in the thematic mode, it is also divided into two. We have the episodic and we have the encyclopedic. And these two also, we have myth, romance, high mimetic, low mimetic, and ironic. Now, concerning the episodic, it means that they're going to deal with something that is individual, personal, subjective. Like, for example, when we deal with the romantic poetry, and of theme derived, the whole poem is subjective. But we are going to derive certain theme, or we are going to get certain. This theme does not relate to the whole society, to the whole universe. It is related to one particular individual. This is called, according to Fry's thematic mode, it is called episodic. Now, inside related to collectivity, something related to, or it is the concern of the whole universe. For example, when we talk about didactic poetry, it is going to give us, all of us, it is going to teach us something. And here we are dealing with one of the most important definitions of literature or functions of literature, that is to teach and delight. I hope that you understand up to now the division or the diagram that Fry tries to elaborate. He divides literature into two moods. They are fictional and thematic. Now, in the fictional mood, we have a are divided into myth, romance, high mimetic, low mimetic, and irony. In the thematic mood, the focus is going to be on the idea, and the thematic mood is divided into episodic and encyclopedic, and the episodic and the encyclopedic are also, or they also entail myth, romance, high mimetic, low mimetic, and irony. Now, fictional mood and the hero's power of action. We said that we have the myth, we have the romance, we have the high mimetic, we have the low mimetic, and we have the ironic. And we say that here we are classifying these according to the object of imitation. So let us have a look. How? What is the meaning of it? I am talking about the fictional mood. Okay, now the first part, if the hero is superior in kind to other men and to the environment of other men, the hero is a divine being. Here it is just like when we are talking about gods or goddess, when we talk about Venus, Ishtar, when we talk about many other gods and goddess, Heracles, etc. So here we are talking about, or angels maybe. Here we are talking about a hero that is different in kind from a human being. He is not, when we talk about angels, when we talk about gods or goddess, all those are not of the same kind, they do not have the same kind of man. No, they are different. So here, superior in kind to other men, to the environment of other men. Of course, when we talk about gods, we are talking about something that we cannot perceive, we cannot understand by our senses, something related to the realm of form, to the realm of ideal. So here we are dealing with what? We are dealing with myth. So it is a myth when the hero is to other men and to the environment of the romance. Where do I have romance? If the hero is superior in degree to other men and to his environment, the hero is the typical hero of the romance. Here, for example, we are talking about a kind of hero who is different in degree, from whom? From other men, to his, he is superior, not different, he is superior in degree to other men, to his environment. He is superior in degree, and here we are talking about I'm going to talk about the historical periods later on. Now, where or when do I have the high mimetic mood? When the hero is superior in degree to other men, but not to his natural environment. The hero is a leader, and here, suppose that we are talking about Napoleon. So here the hero is a leader, and he is superior in degree to other men, but not to his natural environment. And we have also, so in this sense, we are going to have something that we call the high mimetic mode. Now, we have the low mimetic mode if the hero is neither superior, he is neither superior to other men nor to his environment. So in this sense, we are talking about a kind of hero who is equal to other men. He is not superior. He is equal to other men and to his environment. So here we are talking about comedy and realism, how to present the hero or the character, the main character, as he is in real life. Now, so up to now we have superior in kind, superior in degree, and superior in degree to other men and to his environment, and we have superior in degree to other men but not to his natural environment, and we have superior he is equal, not superior, equal to men and to the environment. And we have the power or intelligence to ourselves, frustration or absurdity, and here we are talking about the ironic mood. Where do I find the ironic mood? I can find it, for example, in the theater of the absurd. Theater of the absurd. Now, up to now, the fictional mood, and the fictional mood is divided into comedy and tragedy, and in fictional tragic mood or in fictional comic, we have romance, we have high mimetic, we have low mimetic, we have comedy or realistic, and we have the ironic. Now, myth, where if I want to talk about to link these to literary epoch, how to place them in the literary epochs. Let us see. Now, when we talk about myth, we are talking about something pre-medieval. When we talk about myth, we are talking about something that is pre-medieval. When we talk about romance, we are talking about medieval. And romance, with romance, we have two, either secular, dealing with chivalry and knights, or legends of saints. Now, high mimetic, where do we can find high mimetic? In a drama of the Renaissance, the age of Renaissance, high mimetic. What about low mimetic? Low mimetic from Defoe's time to the end of the 19th century. So here I am talking about the Victorian age, part of the Romantic and Victorian. What about the ironic? Ironic is modernism, postmodernism, and postmodernism. Then, once again, let us concentrate or repeat with each other's the moods. We have partly or mainly we have the fictional mode and the thematic mode. Now, in the fictional mode, we have the comedy and a tragedy, and with each there is subcategories. With each there is myth, there is romance, there is high mimetic, there is low mimetic, and there is the ironic. Now, if I want to put them classify them according to literary epochs, now myth, I am going to place myth in pre-medieval, romance in medieval, high mimetic, it is going to be in the Renaissance, low mimetic, it is going to be from Romantic up to the late Victorian, and if I am going to place the ironic, it is going to be in the modern, postmodern, and postmodern, or let us say metamodernism. Okay. Now, a tragic fictional mode, it is called Dionysian. When we talk about a tragedy, according to Faraay, it is what he calls Dionysia. Now, a tragic myth. What about a tragic myth? We have a tragic myth when we are dealing with the stories of dying gods, like Heracles. Here, we are going to concentrate upon the effect of such stories. What is the effect of a tragic myth? What is the effect produced out of a tragic romance? What is the effect to produce out of tragic high mimetic? What is the effect to produce out of tragic low mimetic? And what is the effect to produce out of tragic irony? Let us start with the tragic myth. Now, a tragic myth deals with what? Deals with dying gods. So the stress of the effect produced out of these stories, it's going to be sympathy. It is going to be sympathy. Concerning the tragic romance, we are dealing with what? First of all, the typical setting is going to be the forest, and the effect of such stories is elegiac, which is produced while the hero is dying, like, for example, Beowulf and Tennyson's Passing of Arthur. Tragic high mimetic, when the hero's conflict in a tragedy produces a cathartic effect. This can be clearly recognized in Shakespeare's tragedies. Tragic, low mimetic, the produced effect is pathos, which presents its hero as isolated by weakness, like in Thomas Hardy's Thèse d'Urberville, and the hero, by the way, in such stories is called Alazon. When the hero is presented as an isolated individual, and because of like, for example, Thèse of d'Urberville and Thomas Hardy's, so we call this character Alazon. The last one is a tragic irony. The hero of such stories is called Pharamocus, or the scapegoat. The scapegoat. Such kind of character is neither innocent nor guilty, in a sense that he is a member of guilty society where injustices are inescapable part of existence. This can be recognized in Septimus of Mrs. Dalloway and Natalia Hawthorne's History Print, or in other words, she is the main character in the Scarlet Letter. So what do we call such character? We call such character in a tragic irony Pharamocus. Now, this kind of character, he is guilty to a certain extent. He is not innocent to a certain extent. Why? Because he is part of a society that is guilty by its nature and innocence by its nature. Innocent by its nature. So, like, for example, we have History Print in Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter, and we have Septimus, the character of Septimus in Mrs. Dalloway. And I want you here to attract your attention, and you have to focus upon the way we are dealing with these categories or genres according to their historical period, and according to the object of imitation. There is a very important question that you may ask me about. What is the reason behind calling this particular essay a historical criticism? Why it is historical? Because as you can see that I am trying to spreading the genres on the epochs, on literary epochs. This is number one. And history, according to the theory of mode, is following a circular movement. In what sense? We know that according to this theory, the genres start with a tragic myth, and it ends with what? It ends with a tragic irony. Then we are going to see that irony is going to go back once again to myth. Let me repeat it once again. This theory follows, or if I want to write it or draw a diagram, this diagram is going to be circular one. And according to this circular diagram, the starting point is going to be tragic myth. Then I am going to move forward up to the point when I am going to reach a tragic irony. Tragic irony is a closer as a point to tragic myth. طيب, how can I apply this upon literature? Sometimes we see that when we deal with modern or postmodern or even contemporary literature, we see that instead of, for example, hero, we have anti-hero. Instead of the quest of the adventure in myth, instead we have the adventure of daily life, the adventure of daily life. So here, what do we have? We have tragic irony in a form of a myth, in a structure of a myth. It is not typically a myth, but it is in a form and structure of a myth. So here that's why this is the idea that Fry tries to make us get. Okay. Comic fictional modes, we said that now in the tragic fictional mode, we have myth, we have romance, we have high mimetic, we have low mimetic, we have ironic. And alongside this, these are placed in different literary epochs. And they have, each of these have different effect. To remind you, with myth I have pathos. Now with romance, with romance I have another effect. With the third one, high mimetic, I have the cathartic. And with each of these, we have certain effect. Now, so we are, as a comedy, we have the same sub-classification: myth, romance, high mimetic, low mimetic, and ironic. Comic myth, the story of how a hero is accepted by a vehicle, is the pastoral or idyllic. It is marked by an escape from society to the extent of idealizing simplified life in the countryside. Comic high mimetic, like in Aristophanes' comedy, there is usually a central figure who constructs his own society and after people who fight him and eventually achieving a heroic triumph. Such stories are sympathy and ridicule. Shakespeare achieves his high mimetic pattern by making the struggle of repressive and the desirable societies a struggle between two levels of existence. One, like our own world or worse, the second is enchanted and idyllic. Comic low mimetic, domestic comedy. We have domestic comedy. The action of the comedy moves towards incorporation of the hero into society that he naturally fits in. Like, for example, Cinderella. I referring to he is talking about something related to murder mysteries. Here he is referring to murder mysteries. Ironic comedy is perhaps more difficult, and Fry devotes a good deal more space to this than the other comedic modes. At one extreme, ironic comedy borders on savagery, the inflicting of pain on a helpless victim. Some examples of this include tales of lynch mobs, murder mysteries, or human sacrifice. Okay. I think we finished with the fictional mode. Now we have to move to the thematic. As I have told you, when we talk about thematic, we are going to use the word dianoia. Dianoia, in other words, means what? Means a theme. Now, according to this thematic mode, we have two main classifications: episodic, and we have what? We have encyclopedic. When we talk about episodic, we are concentrating upon one particular individual, subjective, okay? But when we, individualism. But when we talk about encyclopedic, we are talking about what? We are referring or talking about something related to collectivity, to collectivism, to the whole universe, okay? And just like the fictional mode, we have in comedy and tragedy, we have myth, we have romance, we have high mimetic, low mimetic, and ironic. We have the same thing with thematic mode. We have mythic episodic, romantic episodic, high mimetic episodic, low mimetic episodic, ironic episodic. Let us explain. Mythic episodic combines the mythic sense of the divine with the individualistic and thematic sense of the episodic. The poet's visionary function is to reveal the gods for whom he speaks in connection with a specific occasion. So here we are talking about something related to one particular person, something related to one particular person. The romantic or the theme, a theme related to one particular person, a theme that is related to one particular person. The romantic episodic form is about a poet's movement between words or states of consciousness. Here we are going to talk about, we are going to use memory, how the poet is going to recall the memory of folklore, certain historical figures, certain figures from the divine word, from the word of myth, and he is going to build upon these stories, certain stories related to certain individual experience. For example, let me explain for you. For example, in the when we try to when there is a poet who is going to talk about himself in relation to certain mythical figure. So here there is a kind of identification between the speaker and the one whom he talks about or refers to implicitly. High mimetic episodic literature looks honorable when he is going to look at someone who deserves admire, and I am going myself or identify myself with him indirectly. Low mimetic thematic exposition tends toward individualism and romanticism. The individual author's own thoughts and ideas are now the center of authority, like, for example, when we talk about William Wordsworth's Prelude. An episodic form in an ironic mode is about a fleeting moment in a poet's life, much like a decadent poetry of the late 19th century, French symbolist like Rimbaud. Okay. Thematic encyclopedic. Mythic mode of this form is when the Holy Quran is addressing majority of people, and by this kind of address the Holy Quran is trying to give a lesson, to a collective group of people, to different groups of people. In romantic encyclopedic literature, a poet remembers the history of his people or tells a story that seems mythical. Like, for example, Fry, he refers to Dante's Divine Comedy. High mimetic encyclopedia literature is about the leaders of society and how their bravery gives a lesson about bravery related to humanity in general. We have low mimetic encyclopedic literature. It is about everyday people, like, for example, Pride and Prejudice. Ironic encyclopedic literature is about observing rather than interpreting. It is often about the writing of literature itself. Here, Fry includes modernist writers such as T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land and the novels of Virginia Woolf. Here, he does not focus upon one particular individual, and instead he is focusing in The Waste Land. In particular, he is focusing upon the decay, the overwhelming experience of majority of people in the aftermath of war. So here he is trying to talk about the devastating effect of war. Here he does not focus on the conflict of people, of character. No, he is trying to focus upon certain theme, that is the devastation in the aftermath of war, produced in the aftermath of war. So this is the end of my lecture, and I am waiting for your questions, please.
جزيلا دكتورة وفاء، بارك الله فيك. أيضا مشاهدينا الكرام، كان لديكم أسئلة وتفضل تشرفان.
صوتك ناقص أستاذ محمد، ما أسمعه.
دكتورة تسمعيني الآن؟
أسمعك إيه بس بدون سماعات، لا مباشرة، بس صوتك جدا ناصي.
تمام، يعني بس أوجه شكري لحضرتك دكتورة على تقديمك للندوة هذه. وأيضا أطلب من المشاركين إن كان لديهم أسئلة أو استفسارات حول محاضرتك ممكن كتابتها في الدردشة.
ابتدأ أبغى الدردشة. لحظة والله، أعتقد أكو سؤالين شفت. Do these themes go with poetry only or with all kinds of literature? With all kinds of literature. When we talk about the fictional mode and the thematic mode, here we are referring to literature in general, and all the examples used by Fry are derived from literature in general, not from fiction or poetry or drama in particular. هذا جواب السؤال اللي مقدم من أعتقد نوفل غالب عباس. بالنسبة إلى سؤال آخر مقدم من دكتور لهيب, you mean that the hero meets the requirements of Aristotelian tragedy. Let me explain for you, Dr. Lahib. Now, you know that in this book, Fry is highly influenced. He is highly influenced by Aristotle. And Aristotle, in his book, The Poetics, he talks about medium of imitation, mode of imitation, and object of imitation. He says concerning the object of imitation that tragedy, for example, is an imitation of man in action. So what kind of man do I talk about? Whether the hero or the man is going to be superior in kind, superior in degree, equal or inferior. So according to his level, whether he is superior in kind, whether he is superior in degree, whether he is equal or he is inferior, I am going to decide whether what I am reading is a myth, a romance, a high mimetic, low mimetic, or ironic. This is number one. Number two is that from each of these there is an effect produced. So of course, if you are asking about the requirements or the discourse presented by Aristotle, yes, he is influenced by the discourse presented by Aristotle. Can you please sum up the purpose of this book? In a hurry, he tries to talk about the significance of poetry, of criticism, and he tries to focus upon the way we have to deal with criticism in a systematic way. We cannot deal with criticism in such haphazard way, and the criticism is an art and a science by itself. That's why he presents different theories of archetype, theory of symbol, theory of mode, and theory of genre. He does not try to link criticism with other cultural theories, like, for example, Marxism, post-colonial, colonial, feminism, etc. He tries to link criticism to itself, because criticism is a science by itself. It is not something that is predeterministic. Okay. Do we classify these themes according to the era of literature. Yeah, of course. هي أساسا ليش اسمها historical criticism؟ هو ليش اسمه historical criticism؟ هو اسمه historical criticism لأنه هو خلى الميث، الرومانس، الهاي ميمتيك، اللو ميمتيك، الايرونيك، كلها خلاها في حقبة أدبية معينة. يعني لما نحكي على الميث قال عموما الميث نخليها كحقبة زمنية بالبريميديفال، من أجي أحكي على الرومانس كحقبة زمنية أخليها بالميديفال، من أجي أحكي على الهاي ميمتيك أخليها بالرينيسانس، من أجي أحكي على اللو ميمتيك أنا دا أخليها من الرومانتيك وإلى الليت فيكتوريان، من أجي أحكي عن الآيرونيك فهو دا يخليها بالمودرنزم والبوست مودرنزم. Can I speak؟ لحظة بالله بس أشوف أحد. Can I speak please؟ أشوف منو اللي يحب خلي بس أكمل الأسئلة، وأي أحد من حضراتكم يحب نفتح له المايك أكيد بكل سرور. Now you said myth goes with the medieval literature. لا، الميث goes with the pre-medieval. الميث goes with the pre-medieval. Romance with medieval. Does that mean it is not going to work with contemporary literature؟ لا، شوف اكو شغلة تخص الهيستوريكال. خليني راح اسمحوا لي اتكلم بالعربي لانه هو شويه الكتاب معقد. اساسا قلنا انه هو سمى المقاله هيستوريكال حتى كل وحده من هذني الصنوف يخليها في حقبه زمنيه معينه. ثاني شغله من سماها هيستوريكال لانه من تخليها في حقبه زمنيه معينه راح تمشي على دائره، راح تكون شكلها الدايجرام راح يكون مثل دائره، فراح تبلش بالميث، بالرومانس، بالهاي ميمتيك، اللو ميمتيك، الايرونيك. فالايرونيك راح يكون قريب من الميث. اللي يريد يقوله وقالها هو بالمقاله، قال انه الايروني بالمودن ممكن انه تاخذ الستراكشر اوف ا ميث، وهذا فعلا موجود. أنا مثلا إذا أروح على رواية هاي شو اسمها، مو بورتريت، something ستيفن دادلوس، يعني هي نسيت اسمها، مو البورتريت اللي قبلها اول وحده كتبها. هي انا ايش عندي؟ انا عندي اساسا الاسم ماخوذ من ميث، زائدا بدل الهيرو عندي انتي هيرو. فهذه هو شلون انه معناته هي ايرونيك لكن ماخذه شيء derived certain things from mythical structure. زين، شنو عندي بعد؟ الأسئلة بالله. What is his newness in the respect of what is previously stated by other critics? Look, concerning, you mean what is new? What is his originality? What is his contribution? In fact, all the time I tell my student that each of these critics is trying to build upon what is already stated by previous critics and to add something. So he tries here to collect things to add. So the way he tries to collect things and to put them in a scientific way, in a systematic way, this is his contribution. And if we want to talk about something that is called archetypal criticism, it is going to be related to Fry in the first place. Yani Fry is the father of, let us say, not exactly the father, because already it is articulated by Aristotle, lakin he tries to add. So when he is going to add, this is his contribution. إسلام ناصر، ما فهمت السؤال. إذا أمكن نفتح المايك حتى أقدر أفهم السؤال. ما فهمت السؤال. أستاذ محمد، شوف الله يخليك، منو أكو من الحضور يحب نفتح المايك حتى نتناقش وياه مباشرة؟ بس إذا سمحتم ممكن ترفعون إيدكم حتى أنه ننتبه على الأيادي.
أعزائي المشاركين الكرام، أرجو وضع علامة رفع اليد. تفضل أستاذ فاطمة.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
شلونك
أهلا
دكتور؟
وسهلا.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I guess you're. How are you, doctor?
Fine, thank you.
I just wanted to add about Northrop Fry, as it was, we talked about it in the first year in MA.
Yeah.
Though you might know that Northrop Fry actually was a teacher. That's why when you read his books, they are always didactic. He advises critics, and he says that to analyze these, let's say, his myths in just a minute. He says, he argues that the role of a critic is to uncover these underlying mythic structures and analyze how they are expressed in the literary texts. So
pay attention to the words that he is using. The function or the role of a critic to go through, repeat, and I'm going to stop you to show you the function, the importance of the word anatomy.
Yeah, the role of the critic is to uncover the mythic structures.
It is very important. To uncover things, to discover, to examine them. Okay.
Yeah, and analyze how they are expressed in the literary text. No, actually, but he says that I paraphrased his
implicitly.
thoughts.
Implicitly he uses the word structure.
Yeah, we can say, and his books adopt, as you said, structuralist and post-structuralist, because structuralist that he applies or talks about and structuralist equals plots and article, but they because of as I read his book. So, and also when you let's say you took a clue, he talks about Bible in a book called The Great Code.
By the way, he even talks about Quran.
Yeah, Fry explores the influence of biblical narratives and imagery on literature. He argues that the Bible, as a foundational text, provides a rich source of archetypal patterns and symbols that permeate literary works. So, though you, let's say, talked about the Holy Quran, he greatly talks about and he specialized, specifically book called The Great Code. Also, he talks about, as you said, I don't know if you mentioned, sorry, I forgot. He aligned young in the exploration of psychology, because we know that archetypes can be collective unconscious. So
when he talks about the archetype, Fry talks about the archetype, and Jung links the archetype with the unconscious. And we have access to our dreams, to maybe to our myth, to our folklore, to our traditions by means of our dreams. Yani sometimes and these dreams, such dreams, and by the way, when we interpret these dreams, we are going to depend heavily upon two important devices, literary devices, metaphor and simile. And when there is simile, there is direct identification. But when we talk about metaphor, there is implicit identification with something. Yani, for example, in his theory of the archetype, when he talks about the divine word. Now, the divine word takes us to the God. The God, according to the words means Jesus Christ, the word of human in a diet Christ. When we take us to the vegetable or the animal words, the animal word means the lamp. So the lamp has certain meaning. It takes us also to the identity of Jesus Christ. So criticism of archetype, according to Carl Gustav Jung, is to a certain extent different from that one of Fry, though both of these two, Carl Gustav Jung talks about collectivism, collective unconsciousness. But if we talk about Fry and collective, and we can recognize this in an episodic thematic mode and the encyclopedic thematic mode.
Doctor, you talked about, for example, food in literature.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Fry talks about universality of, let's say, patterns, archetypes. But, for example, obesity is not universal. Food is not universal because these are changeable according to the context. As such, for example, clothing is not universal. They are not. For example, Fry is talking about the ideal and universality, but the things that you talked about in literature, they're not universal.
About the examples?
Yeah. When we talk about food, these are not, it's not universal. Let's say food, let's connect it with an idea of food. It's not universal. It's changeable according to the context. For example,
I'm going to use Arabic. الكونتكست اللي حكى به فراي فيما يخص مثلا بالديفاين وبالبايبل وبجيسس كرايست. احنا عندنا الخبز والمشروب الأحمر. Then these two are what? واحد بيهم تابع للشنو للvegetable word والثاني تابع للmineral. لكن واحد بيهم جسد المسيح وبالتالي there is a kind of universality in this sense, but there is a pattern. For example, when we are going to dreams, we are going to interpret or get the same interpretation collective. الفود for example، ودائما أنا أقولها لطلابي مثلا إنه إحنا عندنا بالثقافة الإسلامية يعني التين والزيتون بها معنى الجمعي. المعنى الجمعي شنو؟ إنه هو خير، أو أجي أشوف النخلة. فنرجع إلى نقطة جدا جدا مهمة في تحليل النص الأدبي، وهو قالها بالمناسبة هو اللي يحدد لي طبيعة التجربة. إضافة إلى أنه تحديد طبيعة التجربة هذا أيضا يحدد لي تحديد طبيعة التجربة، يعني تحديد الجانرا بالمقابل. هذا يأخذني إلى نقطة أخرى أختين لما نتكلم لأنه أنا أعرفك أنت نقاشك ما راح كل سؤال راح يوديك إلى
دكتورة
سؤال
لهذا السبب هو ممكن يكون post structuralist، لأنه هذه patterns can be deconstructed. لهذا ممكن
هو أساسا متبع هذا الأبروج، هو أساسا متبع هذا الأبروج، هو أساسا اتبع construction. ولهذا الكتاب اسمه anatomy. ليش anatomy؟ ليش anatomy؟ why؟ أعتقد thank you very much. أعتقد دكتور شبر وياي، ممكن تفتح للمايك أستاذ محمد؟ دكتور شبر موجود رافع ايده.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank
you very much, Dr. Alpha, for your remarkable and exquisite lecture about Winthrop Fry, who is one of the major pillars that set the foundation of what you call it, the archetypal. And I'm driving while listening to you now. I start with the whole way I'm listening. I'm very interested, and you can of integration, the very into a sense of unity, a cyclic one. So the very beginning is the very end, in that sense that when we start with the tragedy and end with irony, this is a very interesting idea. And once again, the idea of mythology as a sense of what you call them essential historical background for humanity. Every person has his own, and you also presented what the most beautiful things about the medieval, the difference between medieval and the in the sense that the romance, that the Arthurian legend, and those who are involved in a certain sense of traditions that are quite different. So the periods or the epochs of life are characterized by certain traditions or cliches that are rendered or updated from all of this. I'm very indebted for you, Dr. Alpha, and thank you very much for your wonderful lecture. Yeah.
With a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. With a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
بس نشيك الشات أستاذ محمد إذا ماكو أسئلة. أعتقد ننهي الويبينار. أعتقد ماكو أسئلة.
تمام دكتورة، لك الكثير من الأسئلة، تفضلي.
أعتقد نعم ماكو أسئلة أستاذ محمد، فممكن إنه هون ننهي الويبينار. جزيل الشكر للحضور ولكل من شرفوني بالأسئلة وبالنقاش وبالمداخلة. جزيل الشكر لحضراتكم وممتنة لحضوركم، وأعتذر إن كنت أخذت من وقتكم وأطلت عليكم. شكرا جزيلا لكل الحضور الكريم.
شكرا وشكرا وامتناني لك الدكتورة حسين محمد التي بشكل مختلف في العلوم الإنسانية تقدم في هذه الندوة. كما أني أشكر جميع الحضور الكرام وحضورهم جميع نشاطات مؤسسة المستمر. نلتقي في أشهر أخرى في قادمة إن شاء الله، واستودعكم الله والسلام عليكم.